just as merchants often did in your day, charging up the loss to the expenses of the business. Owing, however, to the vast body of consumers to which such lots can be simultaneously offered, there is rarely any difficulty in getting rid of them at trifling loss. I have given you now some general notion of our system of production, as well as distribution. Do you find it as complex as you expected? I admitted that nothing could be much simpler. I am sure, said Dr. Leete, that it is within the truth to say that the head of one of the myriad private businesses of your day, who had to maintain sleepless vigilance against the fluctuations of the market, the machinations of his rivals, and the failure of his debtors, had a far more trying task than the group of men at Washington who nowadays direct the industries of the entire nation. All this merely shows, my dear fellow, how much easier it is to do things the right way than the wrong. It is easier for a general up in a balloon with perfect survey of the field to maneuver 1,000,000 men to victory than for a sergeant to manage a platoon in a thicket. The general of this army, including the flower of the manhood of the nation, must be the foremost man in the country, really greater even than the President of the United States, I said. He is the President of the United States, replied Dr. Leete, or rather the most important function of the presidency is the headship of the industrial army. How is he chosen? I asked. I explained to you before, replied Dr. Leete, when I was describing the force of the motive of emulation among all grades of the industrial army, that the line of promotion for the meritorious lies through 3 grades to the officer's grade, and thence up through the lieutenancies to the captaincy or foremanship, and superintendency or colonel's rank. Next, with an intervening grade in some of the larger trades, comes the general of the guild, under whose immediate control all the operations of the trade are conducted. This officer is at the head of the national bureau representing his trade, and is responsible for its work to the administration. The general of his guild holds a splendid position, and one which amply satisfies the ambition of most men. But above his rank, which may be compared, to follow the military analogies familiar to you, to that of a general of division, or major general, is that of the chiefs of the 10 great departments, or groups of allied trades. The chiefs of these 10 grand divisions of the industrial army may be compared to your commanders of army corps, or lieutenant generals, each having from a dozen to a score of generals of separate guilds reporting to him. Above these 10 great officers who form his council is the general-in-chief, who is the President of the United States. The general-in-chief of the industrial army must have passed through all the grades below him, from the common laborers up. Let us see how he rises. As I have told you, it is simply by the excellence of his record as a worker that one rises through the grades of the privates and becomes a candidate for a lieutenancy. Through the lieutenancies he rises to the colonelcy, or superintendent's position, by appointment from above, strictly limited to the candidates of the best records. The general of the guild appoints to the ranks under him, but he himself is not appointed, but chosen by suffrage. By suffrage? I exclaimed. Is not that ruinous to the discipline of the guild, by tempting the candidates to intrigue for the support of the workers under them? So it would be, no doubt, replied Dr. Leete, if the workers had any suffrage to exercise, or anything to say about the choice, but they have nothing. Just here comes in a peculiarity of our system. The general of the guild is chosen from among the superintendents by vote of the honorary members of the guild, that is, of those who have served their time in the guild and received their discharge. As you know, at the age of 45 we are mustered out of the army of industry and have the residue of life for the pursuit of our own improvement or recreation. Of course, however, the associations of our active lifetime retain a powerful hold on us. The companionships we formed then remain our companionships till the end of life. We always continue honorary members of our former guilds, and retain the keenest and most jealous interest in their welfare and repute in the hands of the following generation. In the clubs maintained by the honorary members of the several guilds, in which we meet socially, there are no topics of conversation so common as those which relate to these matters, and the young aspirants for guild leadership who can pass the criticism of us old fellows are likely to be pretty well equipped. Recognizing this fact, the nation entrusts to the honorary members of each guild the election of its general, and I venture to claim that no previous form of society could have developed a body of electors so ideally adapted to their office, as regards absolute impartiality, knowledge of the special qualifications and record of candidates, solicitude for the best result, and complete absence of self-interest. Each of the 10 lieutenant generals or heads of departments is himself elected from among the generals of the guilds grouped as a department, by vote of the honorary members of the guilds thus grouped. Of course there is a tendency on the part of each guild to vote for its own general, but no guild of any group has nearly enough votes to elect a man not supported by most of the others. I assure you that these elections are exceedingly lively. The president, I suppose, is selected from among the 10 heads of the great departments? Precisely. But the heads of department are not eligible to the presidency till they have been a certain number of years out of office. It is rarely that a man passes through all the grades to the headship of a department much before he is 40, and at the end of a 5 years' term he is usually 45. If more, he still serves through his term, and if less, he is nevertheless discharged from the industrial army at its termination. It would not do for him to return to the ranks. The interval before he is a candidate for the presidency is intended to give time for him to recognize fully that he has returned into the general mass of the nation and is identified with it rather than with the industrial army. Moreover, it is expected that he will employ this period in studying the general condition of the army instead of that of the special group of guilds of which he was the head. From among the former heads of departments who may be eligible at the time, the president is elected by vote of all the men of the nation who are not connected with the industrial army. The army is not allowed to vote for president? Certainly not. That would be perilous to its discipline, which it is the business of the president to maintain, as the representative of the nation at large. His right hand for this purpose is the inspectorate, a highly important department of our system. To the inspectorate come all complaints or information as to defects in goods, insolence or inefficiency of officials, or dereliction of any sort in the public service. The inspectorate, however, does not wait for complaints. Not only is it on the alert to catch and sift every rumor of a fault in the service, but it is its business, by systematic and constant oversight and inspection of every branch of the army, to find out what is going wrong before anybody else does. The president is usually not far from 50 when elected, and serves 5 years, forming an honorable exception to the rule of retirement at 45. At the end of his term of office, a national congress is called to receive his report and approve or condemn it. If it is approved, Congress usually elects him to represent the nation for 5 years more in the International Council. Congress, I should also say, passes on the reports of the outgoing heads of departments, and a disapproval renders any one of them ineligible for president. But it is rare indeed that the nation has occasion for other sentiments than those of gratitude toward its high officers. As to their ability to have risen from the ranks by tests so various and severe, to their positions, is proof in itself of extraordinary qualities, while, as to faithfulness, our social system leaves them absolutely without any other motive than that of winning the esteem of their fellow citizens. Corruption is impossible in a society where there is neither poverty to be bribed nor wealth to bribe, while, as to demagoguery or intrigue for office, the conditions of promotion render them out of the question. "One point I do not quite understand," I said. "Are the members of the liberal professions eligible to the presidency? And if so, how are they ranked with those who pursue the industries proper?" "They have no ranking with them," replied Dr. Leete. "The members of the technical professions, such as engineers and architects, have a ranking with the constructive guilds, but the members of the liberal professions, the doctors and teachers, as well as the artists and men of letters who obtain remissions of industrial service, do not belong to the industrial army. On this ground they vote for the president, but are not eligible to his office. One of its main duties being the control and discipline of the industrial army, it is essential that the president should have passed through all its grades to understand his business." "That is reasonable," I said. "But if the doctors and teachers do not know enough of industry to be president, neither, I should think, can the president know enough of medicine and education to control those departments." "No more does he," was the reply, "except in the